Chapter 6 The Whizbang Flare. Tomas was so full of good news that he was inside the casa gate before he recalled Griselda's remark about Laredo. What did she mean? The glossy leaves of the lemon tree sparkled in the sun, and the ripening pomegranates glowed like red Christmas balls. How could anyone possibly call Laredo a pit? Ramon was up and apparently feeling better, for he was watering the banana tree that stood beside the kitchen palapa. Grandpapa, he shouted, the Japanese fishing boats have been sent home. Ramon turned around so quickly the hose fell from his hand. The water splashed his bare feet and shot out over the ground. Is that true? Yes, Victorio's niece told me, Tomas answered. There will be more fish in the sea. He picked up the hose and handed it back to Ramon. More fish in the sea. Everything is all right. His mother heard and turned away from the wooden rack that hung down between two beams of the palapa porch. She had just laid a portion of beef from the supermercado upon it to dry in the desert air. Can this be true? She asked Ramon. I don't know, Ramon said, turning off the water. It is, Tomas insisted. The secretary of the Minister of Fisheries called Victorio last night and told him. Ask Miguel. I'll bet he knows. Miguel has not come back from Carmen Island, Ramon said. Let's go to the beach. The fishermen ought to know. Ramon took a clean shirt from the pole and, after brushing his hair, tilted his straw hat over one eye with a flare and strode out of the gate with Tomas. Papo, who was sleeping under the olive tree across the street, got to his feet and shuffled along behind. A chicken flew up before them all, squawking. No sooner had they crossed the road to Laredo than Tomas knew the good news was true. Women were talking excitedly across fences. Fishermen were running toward the beach, shouting and asking questions. Dogs barked. Then a package of 1-inch fireworks went off, and another, and 3 more. That does it, said Tomas, raising both fists in the air and shaking them. It is true. Tomas! Jose hand vaulted over his casa gate and caught up with him. Tomas, the Japanese factory boats are gone. My father heard it from Victorio. I have a huge flare firework, a whiz-bang. Let's set it off. Where did you get it? I made it. What else? You made a whiz-bang? Tomas asked incredulously. I know you can make fireworks, but when did you learn to make whiz-bangs? Uncle Lopez was here. You know my Uncle Lopez, who works in the fireworks factory on the mainland. Well, he came to visit while you were on the island. He brought a lot of gunpowder and combustibles and showed me how to make a firecracker flare. And guess what? He left me the instructions and the material for making a huge rocket, one of those Roman candles. It will light up the sky of Laredo. I can see it already, said Tomas, looking up and shading his eyes with his hand. It is roaring. It has turned red. Now it is bursting into feathers. They are the tail of a quetzal bird. It's gorgeous. Come on, Tomas. Jose was laughing with pleasure at Tomas's description. Quit talking and help me set off the whiz-bang. Tomas saw that Ramon was already at the beach, talking to a group of men, and he followed Jose to his casa. Papo lay down in front of the gate and put his head on his paws. A cock strutted past his nose. Papo lunged. The bird squawked and flew into an olive tree. Both seemed very satisfied with themselves. Jose and Tomas ran past a pile of refuse, a disassembled outboard motor, some gasoline cans, a gutted couch, and 3 fighting cocks in cages, and came to a halt before a stack of bricks. The Moreos were building a new house, a brick house like Victorio's. They had been working on it off and on for 3 years, and it was far from finished and might never be. In the meantime, Tomas and Jose had put the loose bricks to use, stacking them into a cave-like shelter with 3 walls that they had roofed with a sheet of plywood. Here they had privacy. Inside, on a shelf, Jose's fireworks and combustibles were stored in empty refried bean cans and mole jars. Tomas kept his starfish, sea worms, and echinoderms in shoe boxes beneath them. Tomas and Jose also kept their Aguila comic books stacked in a corner to read when they were able to sneak out of Sunday school or when they were bored. Jose opened one of the new jars of combustibles his uncle had given him. This is for the rocket. I combine it with paper, gunpowder, and fuses, and zow! It booms up over the Mission Bell Tower. Will it have quetzal birds popping out of white eggs like you always dreamed about? Not the first one. I will go slowly. The first one will explode into a red and yellow sunburst. Is it hard to do, Jose? Tomas asked. Not when you know how. You just have to be careful. Real careful, added Tomas. Gunpowder and combustibles are dangerous. Yes, they are, Jose said very seriously. This stuff could blow a 6-foot crater in our yard and take the pig and all of Papa's fighting cocks along with it. But I know what I'm doing, he added, and with great confidence reached into a refried bean can and took out a lumpy firecracker. This is the Whizbang flare, he said. Are we going to set it off now? Tomas asked excitedly. No, we'll set it off tonight in the dark when everyone is celebrating. It's going to make the day of no more factory boats a day to remember. The whiz-bang will be loud and bright. He closed his eyes and kissed the air. Even the people in the United States will know that the factory boats are gone. Jose's father was also a fisherman. Emiliano Morelos and his brother fished the Sea of Cortez for yellowtails, groupers, and other fine eating fish. They used gill nets with a much smaller mesh than the nets of the shark fishermen. Nets that Ramon disapproved of because they caught baby fish. To make a little extra money, the Morelos brothers also took an occasional gringo sports fisherman out for marlin, swordfish, and tuna. Jose carefully put the whiz-bang under his shirt and crawled out of the cave on his hands and knees. Tomas followed. Pick up some dates for the pig, Jose said. We want to fatten her. We are going to butcher her for Christmas. Tomas gathered a handful of the dates that had fallen to the ground and tossed them to the large black and white sow that was tied to a palm tree by a rope. The sow rumbled to her feet and gulped them down with great satisfaction. She's good and fat, observed Tomas. Yum, said Jose, and led Tomas through the kitchen to the tiled patio. Jose's mother, his Aunt Teresa, and 2 of his 6 sisters were hanging out clothes on a line that stretched from the house to the fish icebox. Jose's father did not salt his fish. He chilled them on ice he bought at the Laredo Ice House and sold them fresh to the restaurants in town. Hello, Tomas, said Jose's pretty, round-faced mother. How does Ramon like the good news? Black-eyed Elena, Jose's youngest sister, smiled shyly at Tomas and ducked behind her mother's skirt. He's real happy, Senora Morelos, Tomas replied respectfully, but he doesn't quite believe it. He's down at the beach checking it out. It's true, all right, she said, then noticed Jose's bulging shirt. What are you up to, Jose? Tomas and I are going down to the beach to discuss politics, he answered with a mock frown. Get on with you, she said, shaking a wet shirt at him. The little girls giggled, and Aunt Teresa playfully snapped a towel at his ribs. Jose grabbed his stomach and rolled to the ground. Got me, he cried, flopping to his back, pretending to be dead. Tell Uncle Diaz I leave my cave to him. The girls were about to pounce on him when he jumped to his feet, and he and Tomas ran from the scene. The beach was crowded. Almost every man in Colonia Zaragoza was either huddled in talk, drinking toasts to the Minister of Fisheries, or laughing. No one was asleep under the palm tree. Tomas saw Ramon and Miguel at the water's edge, and he and Jose joined them near their little ponga. They all stared quietly out at the blue-violet Sea of Cortez, searching suspiciously for factory boats. Do you really suppose it's true? Miguel asked Ramon. Do you believe it, Miguel? Tomas asked curiously. Oficiales say one thing and do something else, he said, as Zorro and his son Jesus joined them. Yeah, it's only a rumor, Zorro said. No one has heard it announced on the television. It's just talk to hush up Victorio. He's been riding the minister hard. But it is true, Papa, said Jesus. I heard it on the radio. Jesus was a large young man with a thick, round chest and very dark skin. He was as unlike his father in appearance as a fox is unlike a toad. Ole! Shouted a nearby fisherman who was plunged into a Walkman. It is true. The newscaster just said so. That seemed to make it final. Cassettes were turned up all over the beach. A young man plucked his guitar, and Colonia Zaragoza began what was to be an all-night fiesta to celebrate the departure of the Japanese factory boats, whether they wholly believed it or not. At noon, some enterprising families brought pushcarts to the beach and sold hot burritos, tamales, chimichangas, and soda pop to the celebrants. Presently, wives with children and babies arrived and clustered together under the palms in lively groups. Miguel brought Dolores, Francisca, Digna, and Maria to the beach and settled them on blankets and mats, with Jose's mother and aunt and the little girls. Tomas and Jose went off to play soccer with their friends on the Arroyo floodplain. They came back from time to time to feast on Dolores's yellowtail enchiladas dipped in guacamole and on Senora Morego's burritos. Music vied with hearty voices and loud laughter. The squeals of children running in and out of the crowd sounded like bird calls above the lively din. But late afternoon the fiesta in Colonia Zaragoza was in full swing. Tomas knew by the number of gulls that the party was a success. They circled over the beach in flapping crowds, dropping down among people, snatching food, and fighting with each other over the bits and pieces. Their wings added a nimble zest to the fiesta. As evening approached, Tomas and Jose edged down to the water's edge and sat on a log to wait and watch. Around 5 o'clock, several hundred vultures circled high above the beach, then glided in low like a squadron of Air Force jets coming home. When the sun sat on the top of the mountain, the vultures dropped into the palm trees to roost for the night. Shoving and squabbling, they secured their space in places, and the sun set swiftly and suddenly, as it does this close to the equator. "Okay," said Jose, looking at the vultures. "The big birds are down." "Darkness is 10 minutes away," Tomas said. With that they waded out to a large rock exposed by the ebb tide. No one took any notice of them. Jose propped up the lumpy Whizbang with a shell, struck a match, and held the flame against the fuse. Sparks sputtered. The fire burned toward the base of the flare. The boys ran. Kerboom! A thunderous explosion was followed by a billowing cascade of red fire and smoke. A fountain of light shot up into the night like flames from a dragon's mouth. Everyone stopped talking. The spectacle was accompanied by a wild mix of cassette music. Jose stood in the water, looking at the faces of the people, now bright red in the hissing light. Their expressions of astonishment were worth all the study and work. He grinned broadly. Then it was over. The flame was out. "Olé!" called a fisherman. "Who put that one off?" a woman asked. "Jose Morelos," Tomas shouted, "and he made it himself." "Made it?" A group of boys crowded around Jose. The captain of the high school soccer team and his friend lifted him to their shoulders and paraded him through the cheering crowd, which was calling and begging for another whizbang. Tomas watched Jose revel in his moment of triumph. When he was lost from sight and the whoops had died down, Tomas waded out into the water and looked north. Coronados Island loomed black and still against the star-studded sky. He could almost see his shark.